Okay, well, welcome everyone to this informative session on opportunities for seniors housing under Build Canada Homes. We're very fortunate to have Jennifer McKelvie join us tonight. Jennifer is a very accomplished person with a Ph.D. in geology from the University of Toronto and a long history of public service, including as the Toronto City Councilor for Ward 25 and acting Mayor of Toronto. She also chaired the Infrastructure and Environment Committee and was a member of the Toronto and Region Conservation Authority, as well as the Green Municipal Fund Council. Elected to Parliament last spring as the MP for Ajax, the Prime Minister appointed Jennifer as Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Housing and Infrastructure. In this capacity, she's here to share with us information about Build Canada Homes, Canada's new housing accelerator, and what opportunities may now be available for those wishing to advance housing projects involving older adults. So thank you for joining us tonight, Jennifer, and over to you.
Well, thank you so very much, Trish, for the kind invitation to be here with you tonight, and also for all you do with this great organization that you've shared a lot with me about. It's a real delight to join you all today virtually. I haven't been on a virtual call in a while, I will admit, so I might be a little bit rusty. But I will start by acknowledging that I am in Ottawa and I am meeting with you today on the traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people. And what we're talking about is so very important. We know that our country is currently facing a housing crisis, which has made it really difficult for Canadians to find housing that is accessible, inclusive, and affordable. And it is affecting people across the entire country, in particular, vulnerable populations, and in particular, our seniors, as you've been talking about so much and advocating for more housing for seniors. We know many people cannot find a home that suits their needs. And for others, home ownership is simply out of reach because of cost. Too many are finding themselves priced out of the housing market or wrestling with high rent costs. And for seniors, it can be challenging because sometimes they want to downsize and find an apartment at a reasonable rate, but they want to stay in the communities that they love close to family. So they may struggle to find that perfect place in that perfect location. It's our responsibility to ensure that we implement transformative change to Canada's housing system so that no one is left behind. And at the center of our decision making is the fundamental belief that everyone in Canada should have a safe and affordable place to call home. So we want all Canadians, from young people looking for their first home to seniors that are looking for a home that best suits their current stage of life, to have more options when it comes to housing and at prices that fit their finances and meet their specific needs. So making sure that housing is available to everyone, regardless of age, and ensuring that people have access to safe and affordable home is really the driving force behind why we made housing infrastructure a priority for our government. And Budget 2025, Canada Strong, was published earlier this month, and it's proposing real generational investments of $25 billion over 5 years for housing and $115 billion over 5 years for the much needed infrastructure, much of which enables housing. So these strategic investments will build major infrastructure in homes and create lasting prosperity, and they'll empower Canadians so that they can get ahead. So I will walk through some of the key initiatives and programs that the Government of Canada is implementing to make housing more affordable, to build supportive infrastructure and help Canadians who are most in need. So we'll start with Build Canada Homes because that's the one that's in the news the most. I know the one Trish is very, very excited to learn more about. And on September 14th, 2025, we launched Build Canada Homes. So Build Canada Homes is Canada's new federal agency with a mandate to scale the supply of affordable housing by leveraging public land, flexible financial tools, and modern methods of construction. The agency is catalyzing a more productive and innovative home building industry. So really, it's about making sure that we're making the partners and the sauce come together with people that might have land, might have financing, might have modern methods of construction. So this new agency will partner across the housing ecosystem to drive the development of affordable housing options. And we want to serve a large segment of the population, including students and also older adults that might be living on fixed incomes. So Build Canada Homes will grow the supply of affordable and community housing, and will work with nonprofit providers to offer flexible financial tools. So Build Canada Homes will offer loans, equity, and guarantees to support mission-driven organizations. So these partnerships are central to Build Canada Homes strategy to grow community housing and ensure long-term affordability. So by working with local governments and service providers, Build Canada Homes aims to ensure that housing is not only affordable, but also responsive to the diverse needs that could support populations that are aging in place. And Build Canada Homes will offer financial tools to help municipalities and nonprofits build the housing seniors need. And it also has a component of it, so both independent living, but also there is a stream for more transitional or supportive housing and co-ops. So the investment strategy is now live. It went live on the weekend. And on that, you can see on the website the types of projects that they're looking for and the key things that are being prioritized. So those priorities, when they're assessing proposals, include the following. Firstly, you have to be ready to have the shovel in the ground in 12 months. So this is about building fast and finding shovel-ready projects that could be accelerated, for example, with financing or with a connection to a builder. Looking for affordability, there has to be an affordable component of the build. Modern methods of construction, and we use that broadly because in some cases it could be modular builds, but it could also be panels or other components of factory builds. So we want to cast the net wide. And of course, importantly, Canadian materials. So we do know that tariffs are really prohibitive right now on steel, aluminum, lumber, and these are things that we really want to prioritize using Canadian materials as much as possible in this build. Listed specifically under the new framework is eligibility is included for seniors independent living. And so I know that's something that the last time I met Trish in your group, I didn't have that guidance or that assurance, but that is now on the website, and it's clear that that is something that is eligible. So this work builds on work that's already been done over the last 10 years through the National Housing Strategy, which put emphasis on addressing housing requirements of groups with unique needs. So the National Housing Strategy realized that we had to make sure all different groups were included. And so that included seniors. And so it continues to be a priority with Build Canada Homes. So since 2017, through the National Housing Strategy, the Government of Canada has supported the creation of over 12,000 new units and the repair of over 42,000 units for seniors. So there has been targeted builds under the National Housing Strategy in the past, and we want to make sure that continues. Moving forward, we will continue to ensure that housing options for seniors are part of our available housing programs and initiatives. Seniors are a very important part of our demographic in society, and we recognize that they have particular needs that may not always be met with market housing that is being built. So some of the programs and initiatives that we have are the existing programs and how they have seniors components, for example. We know that we have the Housing Accelerator Fund. So the Housing Accelerator Fund has been signed by over 240 municipalities, and $4.4 billion has been put into the fund. And it's about incentivizing cutting red tape, increasing housing densification, and speeding up the building process. And these changes are estimated to create 800,000 new homes in Canada. So this housing is important for seniors because it's enabling different types of housing in existing neighborhoods. And a lot of times seniors are looking to stay in their neighborhood. They don't want to move far from their family, their friends. And so the changes that are happening through the Housing Accelerator Fund, they're allowing garden suites, multiplexes, and secondary suites. So sometimes it also can create co-living where you may have seniors that may want to divide up a house and share it, for example. So it's enabling that type of housing. Several national housing strategy programs can support the development and repair of housing for seniors. So another example of this is the Affordable Housing Fund. And the Affordable Housing Fund, through that, the government has committed nearly $13 billion to support the creation and renewal of housing units. And a significant portion of these units are priced below 80% of median market rent. And of the over 50,000 new units committed, over 9,600 units have been committed to housing for seniors, with an additional 42,000 units repaired. And certainly I know in Ajax, there is a building of seniors that is receiving affordable housing funds for repairs. So we know that that is an important way to ensure that we can keep rents reasonable and keep them affordable for people that are living on fixed incomes. On September 19th of this year, the government announced that we are adding $1.5 billion in new loans to the Affordable Housing Fund. So we're topping that up. And we've also accelerated some of the funding from future years forward for the affordable housing, rapid housing stream. And so this is so that we can get new thousands, tens of thousands of affordable housing built as soon as possible. So there's also funding available for seniors in need through bilateral funding agreements. The federal government does continue to collaborate with provinces and territories to preserve and increase the supply of affordable housing and to develop the Canada Housing Benefit to households that are struggling to afford their housing costs. And provinces and territories have the flexibility to target some of this funding to seniors in core housing need. So the next thing I wanted to talk about was infrastructure, which is what I love best, and part of why I switched from being a scientist into politics was so that we could advance infrastructure. So investing in infrastructure connects people, and it leads to stronger communities. Community centers, theaters, libraries, cultural centers, arenas, these are really the foundations of thriving communities. We need spaces for us to connect with each other. And we also know that these are places that are very important for seniors so that they can strengthen their relationships with each other, meet new people, engage new members, and continue to contribute to the vibrancy of their neighborhoods. In 2024, the government announced the renewal of the Canada Community Building Fund, and these agreements deliver $26.7 billion, will deliver $26.7 billion from 2024 to 2034. And these really catalyze core infrastructure investments. So the Canada Community Building Fund, these are funds that are delivered to municipalities, and they have a lot of flexibility in how they deliver it because we recognize the needs of each community can be very, very different. So some examples are using it for repairs or for new infrastructure, and communities can make their strategic decisions about public transit, local bridges, community energy systems, drinking water upgrades, and importantly, recreational infrastructure in community centers. So we're really stepping up with our partners to invest in infrastructure that builds strong communities. And that will help. We need that infrastructure so that we can increase the housing supply that is out there, because when we build new homes, we have more people. That means we need to make sure that they have all the community amenities that everybody needs so very much. And the Canada Community Building Fund is definitely a collaboration between the provinces, the territories, municipalities, and we are all working together to use those infrastructure investments as much as possible to increase housing supply. So I did want to shift and talk a little bit about some of the initiatives that we have around homelessness. And this affects all age demographics, and we know that there are seniors that are either homeless or at risk of homelessness. And we know that it can be difficult with fixed incomes in particular. So we have Reaching Home, which is Canada's homelessness strategy. And we are now investing $5 billion over 9 years from 2019 to 2028 to address homelessness. So funding for Reaching Home does really important work across the country to ensure communities have the support they need to prevent and reduce homelessness. And since 2019, Reaching Home has provided over $709 million to support over 2,000 projects that are targeted to seniors specifically. So that has been a large focus. And I'll share just one example. In November 2024, the federal government partnered with the Ottawa Intercity Ministries and Veterans House Canada to support veterans experiencing or at risk of homelessness in Ottawa. And Veterans House Canada is receiving over $2.6 million over 4 years. And Ottawa Intercity Ministries is receiving over $1.1 million over 4 years through the Veteran Homelessness Program. So these are groups that are working very hard to ensure that our veterans have housing. And we do recognize the need to continue to support them. So accessibility is another core principle of accessibility is another core principle of our programs. And we know that in order to age in place, housing options need to take into consideration and plan for chronic illness, health conditions, and diverse abilities. And we know that an apartment or house that might be suitable for a student may not necessarily be suitable for our aging population. So in March, the government released the Housing Design Catalog with standardized designs to make home building easier. And these designs include in them accessible ready and enhanced accessible layouts that were developed with the Accessible Standards of Canada. And this will support the development of housing options for Canadians living with disabilities, including in seniors. So there are designs, you can have a look at them online, the CMHC design catalog. And what's great about this is that this is very complementary to the work that's being done with the Housing Accelerator Fund that I mentioned earlier, where communities are changing what is allowed to be built to include garden suites, secondary suites, the multiplexes, and now we have standard designs to make that easier that are available free of charge. And we call them near permit ready. So for example, in my community of Ajax, council has already reviewed them, they've adopted them. And so you can get accelerated permits to build any of these designs. They've already been reviewed and vetted. So additionally, the government is working closely with the provinces and territories to try to harmonize the building codes and the construction codes across the country. This is a work that continues to be in process and it's ongoing. As you can imagine, there's a lot of differences across the country in some of the requirements, but we are trying to streamline these as much as possible because then when you have standardized designs, they can be used anywhere in the country. The housing design catalog that's up there, it is posted by region and by province, but the goal is that eventually you could build the same home in any part of the country. So by investing, sorry, if I don't move enough, my light turns off. I just have to move. By investing in growing the supply of affordable housing for low-income households, as well as supportive housing, the National Housing Strategy Program and Build Canada Homes will help offer seniors housing options and alternatives that promote independence, dignity, and aging in place. And so people with diverse abilities have been a priority population under the National Housing Strategy. To date, the National Housing Strategy has committed funding to build more than 2,000 new units and repair more than 24,000 units for people with disabilities, including those with developmental disabilities. Additionally, included in Build Canada Homes, you'll see on the website is $1 billion that is earmarked specifically for supportive housing. And that is so very important because we know that that is really the cure to homelessness, is to have that supportive housing with wraparound support. So that has now been launched. in the investment strategies out there in the portal will open very soon. And we're looking forward to working with municipalities to build the supporting housing that we need for our most vulnerable populations. Budget 2025 also announced our new Build Community Strong Fund. So this proposes $51 billion over 10 years to support a wide range of infrastructure projects. So these are some new things for the federal government to fund. And that's because we recognize that they are so very needed for housing. And so traditionally, hospitals has not been under the purview of the federal government. We are going to be including hospitals, emergency rooms, urgent care centers, and medical schools as something that can be funded as long as it's collaborative with the project. So, with the province. So we'd be working with them. This supportive infrastructure is so very important, especially for our seniors communities that don't want to go into long-term care. They're looking for improved healthcare. This is definitely something that will help residents to age better in place. And as I mentioned, we continue to invest in accessible housing in apartments through our funds that are existing. So the first one is the Apartment Construction Loan Program. And the second is the Affordable Housing Fund, which I've touched on already. But the Apartment Construction Loan Program has produced over 14,000 units. So these are low-cost loans that enable apartment buildings to be built, and they will include a component of affordable and a component of accessible. Okay, getting near the end. I know there's a lot of programs. When I started here, at least I'm trying not to use acronyms. I'm trying to be kind on the acronyms. So Build Canada Homes complements the work we're doing with the Green and Inclusive Community Building Program. And these are ensuring that we have community buildings and infrastructure that emphasize universal design, accessibility, and so that we can make sure that our community infrastructure is inclusive, accessible, and has a long service life so that everybody can enjoy them. So some of the last things I just want to touch on is that working with our seniors better and collaborating isn't just for the housing and infrastructure ministry, it's for all of us. And so we are working very closely with the Employment and Social Development Canada and other government departments to ensure that services are administered in a way that is comprehensive, inclusive, and effective. And this interdepartmental collaboration will ensure that housing for seniors is affordable and accessible, and that it continues to meet the needs of an aging population so that seniors can continue to live independently. Build Canada Homes is designed to closely collaborate with other federal organizations. As I mentioned, the CMHC, the Canadian Mortgage Housing Corporation, they will continue to administer important programs like the Apartment Loan Construction Program, whereas the affordable components will be moved over to Build Canada Homes. And working well between our divisions will ensure that Canadian seniors can stay in their own homes and communities as long as possible. And we do recognize that we need to ensure that there's the supports available for people to live independently. So this is why the government is investing $90 million for the Age Well at Home initiative until fiscal year 2025 to 2026 through the Employment Services and Employment and Social Development Canada. I did write an acronym there. I had to stop myself. Age Well at Home is time limited. They have federal grants and contributions, and it provides funding to seniors that are serving provides funding to seniors serving organizations for local, regional, and national projects to test new approaches and mobilize volunteers to support seniors to age well at home. So in conclusion, I know there's a lot there. I'm happy to break things down more in questions. And I will say that we have Sanjana from the ministry that's here as well. So we're happy to take back any comments you have as well, but also if there are questions that I can't answer, I'm happy to find the information and share it with Trish to share with all of you. But in conclusion, I just want to underscore that The Government of Canada will continue to develop and maintain a national housing strategy that considers the principles of a human rights-based approach to housing and focuses on where there's the greatest need and where it's most important for us to help. And that is in particular with affordable housing we recognize right now. And Build Canada Homes will support improved housing outcomes for Canadians, including for those most in need, and help further the progressive realization of the rights to adequate housing. It is a timely moment for us to be having this important conversation. We know following the pandemic that we had a change with our key trade partner, and we know that there's been a rising cost of living. And we want to ensure that Canada's future plans for housing and infrastructure take into consideration the needs of everyone, of all age groups, of all abilities. And we need to make sure that seniors can stay in their families' homes as long as they wish without financial hardship, or if they want to downsize, that there are places that they can find that have manageable space and an affordable price. And it's vital to include your lived experiences in your neighborhoods, such as incorporating inclusivity and accessibility into supportive infrastructure. And it's really important that we build gathering places like community centers that provide vital programs and services as well, so that everybody has those important opportunities to connect. There are many ways in which we can fight ageism, and implementation of a stronger, more targeted housing and infrastructure programs and initiatives is one solution. And we want to lead to better outcomes for older Canadians and help them feel more secure in their homes, ensure they feel welcomed in their communities, and that they can remain a vital part of the neighborhoods that they created. They created these neighborhoods, and we need to make sure that they can continue to thrive in those neighborhoods. So I'm looking forward to continuing our conversation, answering your questions to the best of my ability, recognizing the investment strategy did launch over the weekend. And as I mentioned, I'm happy to bring back anything I can't answer or any feedback to the minister.
That's wonderful, Jennifer. Thanks so much. I know you were rushing to try to get everything through. So I'm going to encourage people. The video is going to be on SSAO's YouTube channel, where you'll be able to watch it at your leisure and pause it if you need to take notes. I'm also going to see if I can get Jennifer's notes from her so that I can at least put a summary together for people. I have about 5 questions, Jennifer, or 6 people who want to ask questions. If you'll bear with me, I know Sangeeta, Kate, Nancy Edwards, Pat Dunn, Monica Tembo, and David all have questions. I want to take the shortest question first because I know some of the others will be a little bit more involved. Pat, do you want to go first with your question about what constitutes affordability? Pat Dunn? You have to, she has to unmute. There she
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Boy, those mute buttons are really handy, aren't they? Um, so yeah, I work with senior women who are on low income senior women, and housing is practically impossible for them. What do you consider affordable?
Okay, there is a new definition launched by the Prime Minister for affordability. That is important because I think it's the first time that we can set something that is a Canada-wide standard definition of affordability. The definition is 30% of a household's before tax income on housing. And on the, I don't know if I know how to, let me see if I know how tech savvy I am. If I can pop this into your chat. So it does depend on where you are in the country, obviously, because we know that incomes vary. And we are setting it to income, which is the first time, because sometimes it was always, 80% of the market rate, et cetera. But this is really an income driven approach. I will give an example. In my former riding of Scarborough Rouge Park, we built deeply supportive housing for individuals in need, and using that that definition, most of them were on ODSP. And so the rates were coming in around 30% of what that income was for them. So I will try and pop this in the chat. But it does vary by location. But what's important is that we now have a standard definition. And I think that will help us to start to drive data across the country to say how many affordable homes are being where, and you couldn't really compare before. So this kind of sets the stage so that we can really start to dig deep on data. And, the scientist in me is very excited by that.
Well, yeah, and the CMHC has had that particular definition for years. The problem became difficult because of the expenses to build went up so much. And so suddenly, 30% of a low income or even a moderate income senior wasn't enough to meet, the costs. So I'm glad, I'm thrilled actually that your fundamental premise is still 30% of income and that it's still applying to income and not to costs. So thank you.
That's great. Thank you, Pat. By the way, Jen, what I meant to say at the end of your presentation was it's very hard for people, I think, because there's been stagnancy for so long to know that we're in a new day, that things are really changing. And so I really appreciate that you have outlined all of this for us because it's really a very different approach than we've seen in the past. So that's great. I'm going to go down the list. Sangeeta, I know you're concerned about accountability. Do you want to ask a question of Jen? Sangeeta?
Well, yeah, thank you very much, Trish. And it's a great presentation, very informative. My issue always has been and continues to be lack of being transparent and accountability and measurements. So money gets transferred over for various things, whether it's healthcare or now housing or any such thing, with no real. I am a firm believer in carrot and sticks. So what are the measurements? What are we measuring? How can we know that the plan is successful?
Yeah.
And the various provinces and municipal governments are spending the money where they should be spending, and not pocketing the money, or you know what I mean.
I know exactly what you mean. Yes. Look, I find it very frustrating. I think transfer payments, and we don't really have, metrics or accountability on what we want on the other end. This funding is not administered to the provinces to distribute. So these are projects and proposals that are applied for directly, and one-on-one that go out the door. So a good example would be the CMHC, Canadian Mortgage Housing Corporation, apartment loan construction. They have a proposal for the apartment. You see it, you see the partners, you see the proposal, shovels in the ground, and they start getting payments. So this is more delivered like that. The difference here, though, is we're also looking at building in scale. So for example, we're hoping in some cases portfolio projects come in. So for example, if there was a housing provider that was building 4 projects, they might bundle the projects together and we might award it that way. So that way, when you do your foundation on one, and then you can move right to the next site with the same crew, and then the next site, and then the next site, and then the building can come through and it can roll over. So that is also a change in the way we're building and funding housing in Canada, which I think will be very transformative. Additionally, we haven't had the real ability to fund modular housing before because you received funding for a build when you put a shovel in the ground, whereas here you need to fund the modules in advance. So like those are all things that are going to be worked through with Build Canada Homes so that we can recognize these modern methods of construction and that they do need to be funded in a very different way.
Okay, is that pretty good, Sangeeta? Because I want to move on to Kate. Kate, you've got questions about universal design, I know.
Yeah. Yeah, the Accessible Housing Network is an organization of over 80 Canadian organizations. And we're pushing for all the building codes to be changed to require that all new housing be accessible. And this is what's been done in Australia and Finland and some other countries. Canada has a very similar government to Australia. There's no reason why we can't do it. One of the problems is that there is a committee of the provinces that seems to be holding things up. And every time I talk to anybody, they say, oh, petty pack, petty pack, petty pack is the limitation. Every level of government blames every other level of government for the lack of accessible housing. Somebody has to take responsibility and make a change. StatsCan says 27% of Canadians have a disability, and that's just people between 15 and 65, doesn't include seniors or kids. And CMHC reports that it costs the same to build a new apartment, whether it's accessible or not. So why are we not just making all apartments accessible or easily changed so that, adaptable, so that when we get hit by a truck or have a heart attack or a stroke or have a child with a disability, we don't become homeless? Why can't we just simply make all new housing in Canada accessible?
Thank you for the question. I did meet with the Chief Accessibility Officer. We had a lovely conversation about housing and ensuring that there's a component in Build Canada Homes. And on the standardization across the provinces, like I hear you, and I will bring that back to that discussion. We are trying to get to this national code where it is the same everywhere. And I know a lot of it always focuses on talk around, fire and fire code and materials, but we will bring back that, accessibility should be part of that standardized code as well.
One of
Yeah,
the
it would also benefit people with strollers, I think, right, Kate?
and people moving, people delivering, and
That's
heavy
right.
stuff, whatever. It helps everybody, not just
Yeah.
somebody in a wheelchair. You have to remember.
Yeah.
But we really have to
explaining the different levels too, just like you say, like everybody needs to get through the door, everybody needs to go to certain things.
Yeah.
Some can be fully accessible with shortened counters and everything. A whole bunch can be built in a way where they're just convertible if somebody needs to, in the different levels and types. So yeah, it was a great conversation, and I'll bring back about making sure that is, I'm sure it is a part, but I'd like to get confirmation for you that that's part of that discussion.
It's really difficult because there's this huge resistance, and yet cost is not the basis of the resistance. It's the stereotype that something that's accessible must be ugly and institutional. But that's not the case. I invite you to come and visit my grab bars. They're very cute.
I will, and she made those exact same points too, that sometimes it was a really interesting point. They think the condo that's accessible doesn't need to be high end, and there are high end people with diverse abilities that out there as well. So her point was also very interesting about not just the level of accessibility, but also the level of affordability versus luxury, and that you need it for all groups.
Yeah.
Every kind of housing. And the thing is, making making renovations later. Sorry, I'm old and tired. Making renovations to existing housing is extremely expensive. And I think this is why people think that accessibility is expensive. But remember, CMHC, your very own agency, says it costs the same. It's just how you lay out the space.
Yeah, exactly right, Kate. I'm going to move on because we have a few more folks here. Nancy Edwards, you had a couple of things. Did you want to ask Jennifer?
Yes, thank you very much, and great overview. That was really helpful. I'm going to build on what Kate has asked. I'm on the board of the Ottawa chapter for the Canadian Association of Retired Persons and lead an initiative on fall prevention, and I'm working with a number of other NGOs in Ottawa on that. I also actually sat on one of the standing committees for the National Building Codes, so I've heard all the arguments. I can tell you that I've argued very strenuously for universal accessibility. And just a reminder, I guess, to everybody that the building codes are minimum codes. They are not maximum. But there is still this notion, of course, about accessibility being all about disability, as opposed to a universal design approach. My specific question is, whether or not there is going to be a target set for the proportion of units, modular homes, and so on that actually will be accessible.
So I will ask for some responses around accessibility to send back to you. The investment portfolio is out, and I don't know what percent, if they are putting a strict percent or on it. So let me find out for you around that. Like, it does discuss that accessibility is a requirement, affordability is a requirement. But I don't know if there's anything more granular than that. And if there is, I'm happy to share that back with you. I have a new appreciation for accessibility. My mother went from full mobility in 2012 through to the walker. So that changed accessibility through to the wheelchair, full to the like driving cool thing that my kids want to bling up. They all have different weight requirements, width, etc. So I have a new appreciation for how important this is, and I will ask for a response for you around accessibility.
Thank you. And if I may just make a comment about adaptability and pick up on Kate's example of grab bars. So this, I believe, is the recommendation that's going to be coming through with the end of the policy cycle that happens in December. And that is that there will be a requirement for universal backing in all showers and bathrooms so that grab bars can be installed. But unfortunately, the case I made consistently is that the universal backing will not prevent a single fall in any age group because the grab bar has to be there. So in my mind, that's actually an example of uh, an erroneous approach to adaptability. It actually may make people think they're safer because they've got that backing there to install the grab bars when they're ready. When they're ready is usually after the first fall, and it can be devastating.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, I'm working my way down a list here, just so people know you're on the list. Monica, David, Linda, Bob, Sarah, Jennifer, Terrence, Rosa, and Maureen. Okay, so Monica Tembo, please.
Sure. Yeah, so I had two questions. However, I'm going to skip one question and I'll ask the other question. I work in the housing department with Community Development Council Durham, CDCD here in Ajax. And my job is I manage various housing departments. And we go with a holistic approach where our housing or the target population, we really house everybody. So when we are housing everybody, sometimes we are dealing with somebody who needs accessibility. We are dealing with maybe young youth who might need somebody, a guarantor, like to help them before we even figure it out if we need to house them or we need to be connecting with children's aid. And the most important today, because we are speaking about seniors housing, we do have a lot of seniors that we work with, but their income is limited. Some seniors have like old age insecurity. It's not enough money to sustain not just the housing, but also like the living, right? We also have seniors that maybe they are just getting basic Ontario works, or maybe they are on ODSP. So when trying to house these individuals, we face many challenges. Like sometimes we go back and forth with the region trying to see, can we please have this senior maybe get extra money, like for maybe special diet, just because we are trying to get them into housing. And we try to look at every little single pennies they can get from somewhere to get them into housing. I'm skipping the other question of how the province supports community agencies, because I think you have answered in some part on that part. And also I heard there's a seniors building in Ajax that's gonna get funding to modify or maybe to increase housing for seniors, which is kudos. Every little unit counts at a whole. But my question is that what specific steps is the province taking to increase affordable, accessible housing options for seniors on fixed incomes? The fixed incomes is like the examples of income I mentioned. Yeah, thank you.
So I can't speak to the province's plans. I know that for our supportive housing stream, where we do have $1 billion that have been put into that stream that we are going to work with the provinces to fund the wraparound supports. And I gave the example of the building that we had built in Scarborough Ridge Park in my previous role, and that was 64 units modular, a modular build, 5-story, as well as 16 units of a motel that were converted. So the municipality brought the land, the federal government brought the capital, and the province paid for the supportive housing and for the care that the individuals need. And in that case, it was roughly 30% of ODSP that residents are paying. And in that case, like it's $300 a month, but like it's important that people have that pride that it's their home, right? And so it worked out quite well. I am looking to bring a tour of some folks from Durham to have a look at that model, because we do need to find land in Durham, and then we need to continue to put pressure on the region to apply and work with nonprofits to apply. And then again, if they bring the land, we bring the capital, and then we have to push the province to fund the wraparound sports.
Yeah, exactly, Jennifer. And we'll be right behind you as you do that, because we keep hearing from the region and elsewhere that we're not in the housing business. Well, we think people should be in the housing business, so we will support you on that. David McCauley, you have a question?
Yes, I have a question on how the Canada Build program is supporting more innovative lifestyles in communal settings, particularly. And that would include group homes, lodging homes, Abbeyfield homes, co-living for all ages. So I'd like to know what's being integrated that way, because I think CMHC hasn't included anything in terms of cohabitation examples.
Okay, hot off the press, and I'm reading off the internet because I don't even have it printed in front of me. So the investment policy framework for Build Canada Homes, this is what is listed as eligible. So new builds, infill, and redevelopment, mixed income and mixed use developments, students rental, seniors independent living, supportive or transitional housing, affordable ownership and remote community housing, large scale or bundled proposals. I spoke about that bundling, where we're hoping some projects will come in together. Modern construction methods and cooperative housing solutions is in there. So those are the, that's what's listed. But if there is something that, you don't think follows under any of those buckets, like, do reach out, and like we can try and find, where it might fit, or depending on what it is that you do want to do.
That's great. Thank you. Linda, Ottawa Co-housing, you've got a question. Is Linda there? She might be trying to unmute. So Linda, Ottawa Co-housing.
If Linda's not here, I am her colleague, so I can read out her question.
Go for it.
So we are a group of folks who are trying to put together community-led housing. It's an ownership model mainly, but we would like to integrate some affordable units for seniors. Would that be possible, kind of a mixed situation like that?
So I don't want to get into individual eligibility too much without knowing all the details of what it is you want to do, but like I am happy to connect. And when you do go through the website, the portal will open soon, but it does include seniors independent living, and it does include co-ops, and it does include affordable housing. So without like really knowing for sure, I mean, it sounds like a lot of what you want to do is covered in there, but again, it is merit-based, proposal-based. All projects are going to be really looking at its core to ensure affordability, Canadian, prioritizing Canadian materials and prioritizing modern methods of construction. So it sounds like you're checking, you know, a lot of the right boxes, but like for individual programs, like I think, you know, the portal will open, there'll be intake, and there'll probably be the ability to have some back and forth with probably a program manager.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. We'll let you know where the portal is. Bob T? Does Bob T have a question? You had one in the chat. Bob T, no, okay.
While we're waiting, I will say the one thing on the website, I forgot to mention at the bottom of that, it says combine these features to strengthen your proposal and maximize impact. So it sounds like you're combining a lot of features, which is good.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, last call
Now
for
that I'm
Bob.
unmuted.
Bob, are you there? Okay, go ahead.
Yes, yeah. Basically, I can see what Linda from Ottawa was suggesting is the same basic need in Toronto area or almost every community across Canada, as having a common facility, like a condo type building or a larger facility that people could have a community of care with in the facility or attached facilities.
Have we lost the
I
sound?
know North York General is actually planning something similar. Oh,
it's okay. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, did you hear me at all? Yeah.
We just heard
No,
about North York General.
Yeah, they're planning like a community of care related to North York General, and I think what they're asking for in Ottawa or Toronto, for that matter, is like a condo style building or a group of structures close enough together that you can have the supports very close to them, rather than having things like PSWs visiting individual homes or individual spaces for different services. It's more expensive to have these service providers travel between their sites. So having a closer knit place is much more efficient for care, and it's much more efficient for the people.
Yeah, Bob makes the point around that's an integrated care model, Jennifer. I think we've talked about that.
Yeah.
Whether it's a PACE program or it's located close to a hospital or however people do it. So, so Bob, you're asking whether those are models that the federal government would be looking at, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, again, I'm always a little nervous to get too deep into a single proposal, except that, again, you know, looking through what's eligible, it's clear that seniors independent living is something they're looking for. But then there's also, again, that stream for supportive, but how are they defining supportive? Is it in the building? Is it shared? I think when the portal opens, in the context there, like that would be a great question to bring forward to them.
Yeah.
The intent of Build Canada Homes is very much that it's not this rigidness that we saw necessarily in other programs of the past, right? Like this is really about recognizing innovative approaches to solving the housing crisis. So I think on some of those projects, like send them in, and we'll have to make sure you get connected with like a program manager that can guide you through like what it is you want to do and you know where it might fit, because there's also all those other buckets that are still continuing, right? So this is like ramping everything up, but we don't want anything that might have been funded traditionally to also, you know, lose out. So send that in and you know, again, I think we're close on the portal. But I'm also happy to see if we can get someone to have a look at that and say how it might fit.
That's great. Okay.
Thank you.
Sarah Bass, you had a question around timelines, I think. Sarah Bass, you have to unmute.
Sorry, trouble with
Go
Teams.
ahead.
Yeah, I'm just curious about what the expected timeline is once the portal opens for approvals and then the transfer of funding.
So I don't know if they haven't said. I don't know how long for reviewing an application. I suspect probably we might have a really big wave on like opening day. So the first round might take a little longer than later rounds, for example. So like I don't want to give too much on there, but I will say on the website it is very clear they are looking for projects that can have a shovel in the ground with a year. So I think that is showing the urgency. And again, Build Canada Homes is really about being responsive to what wasn't working well before. And we do know that it was difficult to get many projects built. The other thing that was problematic in the past too is eligibility changing partway through. So maybe a requirement change. So then developers were going out and redesigning a building and then the costs go up and then coming back and going round and around. Like we really want to try to be as streamlined, as efficient, as quick as possible and get shovels in the ground. And, you know, the Prime Minister is very, very clear that, you know, he wants every member of Parliament out there building housing and getting this done. And so we're all working really, really hard in that regard. So I want to say faster than we've done it in the past. But I will recognize that day one could be a little overwhelming. So, but like certainly like get the projects in, let's start rolling. And, you know, the goal is to have shovels in the ground on these projects in a year.
Yeah, that's fair enough. That's fair enough, I think. Jennifer, you're next.
Oh, yes. I'm with the Council of Aging in Ottawa, and I've been listening carefully for any mention of the word NORCs. And I don't know if you've heard of NORCs, naturally occurring retirement communities, but these are buildings or communities where 30% of the people who live in that building are over 65. And in Ottawa alone, we have 170 NORCs. And I'm just wondering, I'm sure every other city has a similar number, if there's anything in the federal government policy that would look at helping seniors who want to remain living independently with supports in place. And that's what a NORC is. It's a NORC with a supportive service program. And I'm wondering if there's any mention of this in the federal policy.
So I'm happy to kind of take that back again. So Build Canada Homes, it does have in there that we're looking to fund seniors independent living.
Yes.
We don't traditionally fund like social services and wraparound support. So for example, on the supportive housing, we build the building, but not the wraparound. So I don't know if there is funding for what you're interested in, but like through other departments, like jobs, families, etc., or health. But yeah, so yes.
So what I mean by this too is that NORC supportive service programs require shared space. So any new builds really should have shared space, not only for seniors, but anyone who wants to congregate or get together or have support service come in, they need to have a common space. And builders will be builders and they'll build buildings with no common space. And I'm just wondering if this is part of the federal government's platform to ensure that new builds do have common space.
Okay. The investment framework does not get into that granular level of detail, but we are taking notes to bring them back to the ministry. And certainly I think with Build Canada Homes, we can relay to them, if you do want to have seniors independent living buildings, that they, you know, joint space and shared space is something that's that's important. So let us relay that back to them.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's great, Jennifer, because that's also needed for PACE programs and for integrated care built into to the new builds. So that's what we're looking at in Ajax, as you know. If we put up an intergenerational 5 to 6 story, we're looking for at least space on the ground floor to be able to put integrated care in. I think that's what Jen is talking about in programming. Terrence Hunsley, you're next. Yeah, done.
Thanks.
Oh, good. You unmuted. Good.
Thank you, Jennifer. I'm thrilled to hear that you're interested in supporting innovative initiatives, and also that you want shovels in the ground in 12 months. And I'm wondering if these two things go together, because just as an example, I'm involved with a group called Village Canada, and we're trying to put together an intergenerational village, and it involves combining housing with the various kinds of support services that go with it. And, in many cases, for example, people who are getting support funding from the province to develop services have to identify their piece of land about 2 years in advance before they can get approval to extend their services and so on. And I'm just thinking that it's not going to be really very realistic to think that anyone who doesn't have a project that's ready to go now is going to. I guess my question is whether you can, within the various funding programs you have, support new kinds of innovative partnerships that may require a little help to get things going and bring things together.
Yeah. So, I mean, on the 12 months, I mean, I think there'll be a rolling intake of proposals. So this is not going to be $13 billion spent in year one. So, some applications are probably ready to go right now, which is why I think we'll have an initial onslaught of applications. But, others are still putting together their proposals. They're finding the land, they're finding the partners, they're finding all the pieces that come together. So I think there'll be many opportunities for applying. So I do recognize all 500,000 homes aren't going to happen right in the first intake. So there are other programs I should come back to on kind of relating with the previous question about supportive. So I did in my remarks mention that we do have the Age Well at Home initiative. Yeah. So there are some programs that we do have. And again, I think with what you want to do, it's a matter of trying to see where the best place is to apply. And we do need to problem solve too, especially on housing, with the housing and the supports that are needed. And so we are going to be pushing the province in that regard, but there are some federal programs as well. So when you identify, something you want to do, we'll try to connect you with, where the best routes are for your applications in that regard.
Okay, Terrence. All right, that's great. Rosa Prieto and then Maureen Druin. I think those are our last two questions. So, Rosa, if you're there.
Yes. Hi, Trish. I think my question was asked earlier about NORCs. I was specifically interested. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. I was specifically interested in the $90 million investment in the Age Well at Home initiative and was wondering how that funding aligned with or supported the development and sustainability of NORCs as part of Canada's broader national housing strategy, and specifically if there were mechanisms in place to ensure that this funding reaches rural, urban, suburban NORCs, many of which, as has already been noted, have a high proportion of older adults but lack the formal infrastructure to deliver coordinated community-based care that is sustainable and accessible. And as a quick follow-up to that, I'm wondering, will the federal government, are there any plans to track outcomes such as in these types of living arrangements, such as reduction in institutional care demand, caregiver burden, or loneliness among older adults in these types of settings? Thank you.
So yeah, the Age Well initiative, it's time sensitive federal grants, and happy to point you in the right direction to the ministry to get more. It's in ESDC, employment services, jobs, ministries, jobs, families, seniors. And they provide funding to seniors organizations for local, regional, national projects to test new approaches and mobilize volunteers to support seniors to age at home. And we do know that we need to have some interdepartmental collaboration to ensure that housing for seniors is affordable, accessible, and meets all of the needs that our seniors groups have. So I will take back the comments around NORCs, as well as around accessibility with BC8 with Build Canada Homes, and if there is accessibility, I'll see what I can find and I'll share that on with Trish.
That's great, Jennifer. Just so you know, Rosa, we SSAO did do a social infrastructure brief to the Committee on what is it called? Quality of Life and Well-being. So we have sent a position in on that. We haven't heard back yet. We're hoping we will at some point. So just to let you know that the position is out there. And I think, Jennifer, I think I did share that with you. So you probably have it somewhere in your huge stack of papers. Okay, there it is.
I don't know if I got this one for you. From loneliness to social connection.
Yeah.
So I have this one in my pile to read. I think it's a really interesting point. I know that in the UK, they had a minister for loneliness. I know that, how you define wellness and well-being, and, if we can keep people connected, then, we'll have big savings in the healthcare system. So very much top of mind. I know you've shared stuff. I always ask people to share that stuff with me because I do think it's really interesting, and it's part of why we do need to make sure as we build housing for seniors that they're able to remain in the communities where they know people and they have those social networks and they have those safety nets, and they know people that will check in on them and they'll check in on each other. So that is important, and I think that's why I was very happy to see that Seniors Independent Listening was listed in eligibility on Build Canada Homes. And Trish, I will let you know that when I submitted my letter of comments to the minister of what we needed to include, I did put that in, and I referenced your group as a group that was very interested in this, and I flagged your submission that you put into Build Canada Homes as well.
We appreciate that very much. Okay, last question, Maureen. You're bringing up the rear, Maureen.
I'm unmuted, I think, right? I'm okay? You hear me, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm with the Senior Watch Alta Vista in Ottawa, and we're very much involved in trying to establish a NORC. So all of the questions regarding NORC are important to us. I'm also part of the executive for the Guildwood Residents Alliance, and Guildwood Estates in Ottawa is where the one and only site that has been identified for Build Canada Homes to go forward as quickly as possible. That's where the site is, and that's 1495 Heron Road. And this organization, we've been working for the past 4.5 years trying to get nonprofit affordable housing with mixed community and bilingual health services and ancillary services. And my questions are regarding two things that I've seen in the press releases or other documentation, and it deals with community. And it's been said that you're not building just houses, but you're building communities. So my first part of the question is, could you give a little bit more of the vision of what you're talking about? I think you related to some of it, but I'd like to have a little bit more information on that. And then the other is that the projects are to be built with community involvement. And I would like to know what is understood by that, because we've sent a letter with a CC to the minister, but to the Build Canada Homes, requesting a meeting so that we could talk about what we would like, and because we would like to be engaged. And I'm sure other projects will want to do, or other communities will want to do similar. So I'd like to know what it is that was meant by community involvement, and if that includes participating in the planning and implementation processes.
So when we did I'll give the broader answer to people first. So when we launched Build Canada Homes, the Prime Minister also launched the 6 sites that were federal lands to be opened up for building. And I did put in the chat the site you're talking about. I think it's 1495 Heron Road. Does that make sense? Is that right? Okay. And so I put that in there. I have not read through that one in detail, but as well, so 2 things. So one, the description of the site, and the second is the request for qualifications. So hopefully there is some information that is in there, but we can also, so I have 3 things to get back to you on. And so one is, the CLC evaluation, the Canada Lands Corporation evaluation process, and timelines. So let me see what I can find on that, and get back to you. It has the same requirements that you see with with Build Canada Homes generally. So affordability, we know there has to be affordability, accessibility, Canadian materials, modern methods of construction. These are all things that they're looking for to prioritize through the proposals that are being brought in. The request for qualifications you can see on the website, that is open, and there's 27 days. But of course, that's to generate all the ideas, and then the hard work becomes in how do you evaluate those and see what should be in it, and how are they tweaked or prioritized, etc. So let me see what more we can find and get back to you on that.
Okay, because the 2 questions are, I suppose the community, when you're talking about that you're building communities, you're building interconnection, health support, all around support, you're looking at facilitating all of that. Am I correct?
I don't have details on that. I mean, I put the request for a quote or for qualifications out there, the RFQ document, but we've been working at the very high level on the investment strategy and the principles, but that's much more granular than I'm familiar with. So we do have St. John here as well, so we'll see what we can find.
Maureen, if I can just mention as well, a lot of that will fall under provincial jurisdiction. So it'll come back to the accountability question somebody asked earlier about how that money is going to be spent, the federal transfer money. So we're gonna have to get to our provincial politicians as well on this one, I think.
Yes, well, there's a facilitation, as I read in the draft guide, that BCH will be facilitating collaboration with the province. So yes. I'm assuming that'll be part of it. What about?
We want to get in there so they hear from us, though.
What about the community involvement? Like, we would like to be part. How do we fit into all of this? How can we partake in having the community that we feel our neighborhood needs?
Yeah, so that's what I'll get back to on. Yeah. Is I think that would be, once these proposals come in, will community be involved? How will community be involved? What are the timelines? So let me find out what we can on that, and then share that with Trish to share with you.
Yeah, we'll get back to you on that one, Maureen, okay? Thank you. Okay. I'm going to slip in one quick one because I think it's a quick question from Owen Kelly. You just snuck it in there, Owen. If you're still with us, do you want to ask the question?
Oh, sure. It's a super quick one. Given that you're looking for a tight timeline, Some projects that can deliver in 12 months, things are already rolling, and they might get a proposal out there, but they might not get a decision back in time from Build Canada Homes. And so would there be some type of retroactive or ability to make a claim after a project has moved forward?
I don't know. I think it would be pretty unlikely that we have those scenarios because don't forget, we've still had the apartment construction loan program, the affordable housing fund. So anybody that's got shovels in the ground right now building affordable housing probably already has financing in order before they broke ground. So I don't really, I don't know, but like I think it would be unlikely, and I can't really think of too many scenarios where that might be at play. I think a question that might be worthwhile is if they have started construction, they want to change to include affordable housing, or they want to change the project. Could they apply in a change? And again, I'm not sure. I think we have to look through that. But if there's a particular circumstance, do reach out or they can go through the portal and talk about it. But I would suspect that if that was the case, it was going to be something that was changing drastically. So it could be dealt with through a new proposal to either increase affordability or increase some methods of modern construction, etc. But most developers won't put a shovel in the ground unless their financing's already in order and their pro forma's already been all solidified, right? So,
Yeah.
But if this is an example, like we can get somebody, there'll be program managers, and they can talk to a program manager.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Jennifer, thank you so much. This has been a really information-packed session, and I know everybody has walked away with an awful lot of additional information today, and I really appreciate that you got that information for us also. We did meet with Jennifer some time back, and so she's done an awful lot of homework since then, and we very much appreciate it. And we appreciate that you're going to be getting back to us as well on some of these things. So as soon as the portal opens, if we can have the URL for that, I'll be able to pass it around to people. We'll send it out to this mail list. But this has just been a fabulous presentation, and I can see all the thank yous and excellent presentations coming into the chat. So I hope you have a look at those before you leave. But we really do appreciate all the work you're doing on this and your knowledge as well. It's really refreshing and in fact a breath of fresh air to have this kind of presentation from someone from the federal government after years and years of drought. So this has been wonderful. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me. And it will continue to be an ongoing discussion. You know where to find me. I know you know where
Absolutely.
my office is.
We know where your office is.
Know where I am. So we'll continue to work on that. But do please tell everyone if they have land, have a look at Build Canada Homes, or if they have, a new method of construction and they're looking for land, maybe reach out, tell them to have a look at the Canada lands that are opened up, right? So they have land that's available with Canada lands, and we really want people to put applications in, particularly for that supportive housing. We know we need to get that rolling as soon as possible, so that we can help the people that are homeless out there right now. And you're the best. Thank you for having me and listening to me natter on for so long.
Well, we appreciate the nattering. So thanks again, and have a good evening, and have a good evening, everybody. And lots of hearts and claps and everything coming your way, Jennifer.